The first time I heard the scream, I thought it was in my head. You spend enough nights alone in a small town, in a house that's too quiet, and your own memories start to echo. Sounds get trapped between the walls. Old voices come back. Regrets learn how to speak. But the second scream, a few seconds later, tore right through the November air. It was sharp and wet, like somebody ripping fabric that was soaked in water. Not the shout of an argument. Not a drunken yell. A sound people make when they suddenly understand that they might die. I checked the clock on the wall. A cheap, round thing from the supermarket. The seconds hand glowed faintly in the dark. It showed 12:15 Sunday night, or rather, very early Monday morning. I was already awake. Men like me don't sleep well. At 52, with more ghosts than friends, you live in fragments of rest. I had been sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of cold tea, staring at the laptop screen. The email from the law firm was still open. Formal language, polite phrases, and a single hard fact. I was out of money, out of options, and a few months away from losing the house. I remember thinking, just before the scream, that it was strange how quietly a life can fall apart. Then the sound ripped across the street. My house stands on the corner of a short cul-de-sac on the edge of town. 10 houses in a gentle curve, lamppost in the middle, then fields and the line of trees. The kind of street where people leave bicycles on the lawn and never lock their sheds, or used to. Times change. The scream came from number 7, the Barnett's house. I knew that without doubt. The way you know which cupboard has the coffee in a dark kitchen. Some sounds have a direction, a weight. The scream belonged to that house. I was on my feet before I felt myself stand. The chair scraped on the old tiles. The mug rattled. My knees complained as I moved, a dull reminder that I was no longer the policeman I had been for 25 years. I grabbed my coat from the back of the door. No phone, no keys, just the coat. Muscle memory carried me through the hallway and out into the freezing air. The street looked wrong. It was too still. No dog barking, no curtains moving, only that thin, weak light from the lamppost, painting everything in a pale, yellow wash. My breath came out in quick white bursts. The frost on the car windshields glittered. I stood for a second on my front step and listened. Nothing. You learn to trust silence as much as noise. True panic leaves traces. A slammed door, running feet, something. This silence felt arranged, as if the whole street was holding its breath. I crossed the road. Number 7 sits almost exactly opposite my place. A neat semi with a small front garden, low brick wall, 2 sad rosebushes by the path. The porch light was off, but there was a faint glow from an upstairs window. The curtains were mostly drawn, a narrow triangle of light spilling onto the front lawn. I moved up the path. The gravel crunched under my boots, loud in the stillness. Another habit from the job made me slow down as I approached. Eyes scanning. Door closed. No visible damage. No lights on downstairs. The living room curtains were open just enough to see the shape of the sofa and the blue reflection of a television left on mute. I rang the doorbell. The sound echoed inside. 1 chime. Then silence again. Hello? My voice felt too loud. It's Tom. From across the road. No answer. I tried the handle. Unlocked. Something tightened under my ribs. I pushed the door open with my fingertips, out of old training. If there's blood on the handle, you don't want it on your skin. The door swung inward with a slow, complaining creak. Hello? You all right in there? Still nothing. I stepped inside. The hallway smelled of something floral and expensive, over a faint trace of stale cooking. My boots found the mat. I knew this layout. Most of the houses on the street were built in the same year. Hallway, stairs on the right, living room door on the left, kitchen at the back. The television flickered blue through the crack of the living room door. I pushed it gently. Empty. Sofa cushions dented. A mug on the coffee table. Remote on its side. A kid's backpack on the floor, half unzipped. Cartoon characters smiled on the fabric. I backed out into the hall. My hand brushed against the edge of the small console table where people usually drop keys and unopened mail. My fingers touched cold metal. I glanced down. 2 sets of keys. One on a simple ring, the other with a small blue plastic rabbit, so whoever had screamed hadn't left. A narrow sound crept into the edge of my awareness then. Not in the house, outside, farther away. A car engine, fading into the distance. I stepped back to the open door and looked out. Headlights, 100 meters away, turned left at the end of the road and vanished among the bare tree branches. I couldn't say what kind of car it was. Too dark, too quick. Just a sense of something leaving the scene a little too fast. I closed the door behind me. Upstairs, a light burned under a door. I knew before I climbed the stairs that this was going to be bad. When you've stood in enough quiet houses at night, you learn to recognize the particular flavor of air that comes after sudden violence. It feels thicker, as if the room is still trying to remember what just happened. My knees protested each step. The banister was smooth under my palm. Halfway up, on the wall, I noticed a framed school photo of a boy. 8, maybe 9. Dark hair, big ears, the awkward smile of children who still trust the camera. The name at the bottom read, Daniel Barnett, Year 4. The house belonged to Mark and Lisa Barnett and their son. We weren't friends, but in a street like this, you pick things up. He worked at some logistics company. She was a part-time accountant. They had moved in 3 years earlier, exchanged a few polite barbecues and Christmas cards with the neighbors. Ordinary people. Ordinary until they start screaming after midnight. At the top of the stairs, the landing opened to 3 doors. Bathroom ahead, small bedroom on the left, master bedroom on the right, where the light came from. I stepped toward it. The door was half open. A line of light cut across the landing carpet. I heard something then. Not a scream. A kind of thin, rhythmic sound. Breath. Not quite sobbing, but close. I pushed the door with 2 fingers. The scene froze me in the doorway. Lisa sat on the edge of the bed, her back to me, shoulders slumped. Her long hair, usually tied up in the neat bun I'd seen on her way to the car, now hung wild down her back. She stared at the floor. Mark lay on the carpet beside the bed. His head rested at an unnatural angle, turned slightly toward the door. His eyes were open, fixed on something behind me that wasn't there. The lower half of his face was a mess of blood and dark, glistening fragments. The side of his skull near the temple had caved in, a crushed hollow rimmed with red and white. On the carpet, near his right hand, lay a heavy, old-fashioned metal candlestick. It glinted under the bedroom light. The base was smeared with hair and blood. The smell hit me next. Copper and something else. The raw, warm scent of a body that had only recently stopped fighting. Lisa didn't look up when I entered. Her bare feet rested in the spreading halo of blood that soaked the pale rug. One of her hands hung from her knee. The other was pressed to her mouth, as if still trying to push back a scream that had already escaped. I took a slow breath. Lisa, nothing. It's Tom, I said. Across the street. Her shoulders jerked once. She turned her head fractionally, not enough to meet my eyes. Her gaze slid past me, down the hallway, to some earlier moment she wanted to rewind. He's dead, she whispered. The voice barely carried across the room. My old training stepped forward, taking control where emotion might have liked to rush. I glanced around the bedroom without moving my feet. No shattered glass, no second weapon. The window was closed, locked, as far as I could see. No signs of a struggle beyond the immediate horror on the carpet. "How long ago?" I asked. Lisa blinked slowly, as if the question was in a foreign language. I don't," her words stumbled. "It was an accident." I let that hang in the air for a moment, like steam. "The boy?" I asked. "Where's Daniel?" That got a response. Her head snapped toward me, eyes red, pupils huge. "He's gone." "Gone where?" "He was here," she said. He saw. I told him to go to his room. Then, there was a car. I heard the door. When I came out, he was gone." "Did you see who took him?" She shook her head, a quick, small movement. "Call the police," I said. "Now, use your phone." Her gaze dropped to her hands as if she had just discovered them. They were red to the wrists, slick with drying blood. An empty phone case lay on the bed beside her. "He took it," she whispered. "Mark took my phone. Before, when She didn't finish. I stepped back out onto the landing. It had been almost 3 years since I'd left the force. 3 years since a shooting in a filthy apartment stairwell ended my career and left my partner in a cemetery. 3 years since the department made it clear that older detectives with bad knees and guilt in their eyes were not part of their future. I'd been told, politely, to go home and rest. But habits don't retire. I pulled my coat tighter, as if that could shield me from what I was about to do. I went downstairs 2 steps at a time, my body remembering how to move when time mattered. In the hallway, I grabbed their phone from the console table. It was under a pile of envelopes, vibrating silently. "Unknown caller" flashed across the screen, then disappeared. I dialed emergency. My voice came out level. Name, address. Possible homicide. Adult male, mid-40s, severe head trauma. Suspect, unclear. Child possibly missing. Male, 9. Name, Daniel Barnett. The operator started asking questions. I answered the important ones. No, the suspect was not armed now, as far as I could see. No, there was no immediate threat to bystanders. Yes, the scene was secure and I would stay on site. When she asked my name again, I heard a hesitation on the line when I told her. Detective Inspector Thomas Hale. Retired. Dead men leave shadows. So do retired cops. The operator's tone sharpened. Units were already on the way, she said. They had a car nearby. Stay put. Do not touch anything. I ended the call as the woman's voice launched into a scripted reassurance meant for civilians. I stood for a moment in the dim hallway, the weight of the phone heavy in my hand. There was something odd about the way the keys lay on the table, both sets, side by side, as if placed there with care. No key missing, no hurried grab. If someone had taken Daniel, they had left, without locking the door, with their own car keys. So why were Mark's and Lisa's here? The faint echo of that car driving away brushed my mind again. A cold thread ran down my spine. I stepped back outside. The night had shifted. A slow awareness crept across the street. Curtains twitched. A dog finally barked at the end of the road. A bedroom light went on 2 houses down. People can feel when something rips a hole in the ordinary fabric of their lives. I moved to the edge of the driveway and turned slowly, scanning the quiet street. Tire tracks smudged the frost on the asphalt in front of number 7, only a few meters long before they joined the general gray of the road. Not much to see by lamplight. I caught movement on my left. Number 5. The neighbor, Alan, stood at his window in a worn dressing gown, holding the curtain with 2 fingers. His thin, pale face was lit by the glow of a lamp behind him. Our eyes met. He stepped back as if I'd slapped him. The curtain fell. He didn't come out. Farther down, at number 9, the Petrovic couple did. They opened their door and peered out, whispering in urgent, rolling consonants. I could have walked over and told them something. But anything I said now would turn into rumor by morning. Better to leave it to the uniforms. Blue lights washed the trees at the end of the road a few minutes later. The first patrol car arrived fast, tires hissing on the frosty asphalt. 2 young officers climbed out. 2 young. They looked at me, at the open door, at the dark house, and I could see the quick mental adjustment as their training replaced whatever they'd expected from a quiet Sunday night. "Sir, we'll take it from here," the taller one said, soft but firm. I nodded. "She's upstairs," I said. "Bedroom on the right. Husband's on the floor. Head trauma likely from a blunt object. Kid is missing. Name's Daniel. 9 years old. I called it in 3 minutes ago. Is." The shorter officer's eyes widened when I mentioned the missing child. The taller one glanced at my face again, recognition dawning. "Hale?" he asked. "You're D.I. Hale, right?" "Was," I said. "A long time ago." He swallowed once, then gave a quick nod. Respect, and a small flicker of relief. A retired detective who had already secured the scene was a better start to their night than a hysterical civilian who tried CPR on a shattered skull. "We'll need a statement," he said. "You'll get it," I replied. "When your boss gets here." I stepped aside and let them go in. As they disappeared into the house, a strange calm settled in my chest, the kind I hadn't felt since I turned in my warrant card. It was the calm of having something clear to do. A dead man, a missing boy, a bloody weapon on a bedroom floor, questions stacked in the air like unplayed cards. The street, the house, the cold night around me, everything drew into a single silent promise. I was done watching my life fall apart. This time, I was not going to stand back and let something else be taken. Not the boy. Not the truth. Not if I could help it. The detectives arrived 40 minutes later, which in this town counts as fast. In that time, the street filled up with the familiar circus. 2 more patrol cars, an ambulance crew who already knew they were too late but went through the motions with professional ritual, a forensic van, uniforms stringing blue and white tape across the entrance to the cul-de-sac, neighbors clustering behind their curtains, eyes bright with the guilty thrill of disaster that wasn't theirs. I stayed where I was, leaning against the low brick wall in front of my house. A few officers tried to move me farther back. The taller one from earlier had a quiet word with them, and they left me alone. Once a copper, always a copper. Even if you're just a tired man in an old coat now, the lead detective stepped out of an unmarked car just after 1 in the morning. I recognized the walk before I recognized the face. Steady, controlled, with that particular tension in the shoulders of someone who has spent too many nights stepping into other people's worst moments. "Tom," he said, when he was close enough. "You look terrible. Hello, Neil." Detective Chief Inspector Neil Carter had been a sergeant when I first moved to this town, 10 years earlier, after a divorce that emptied my flat and my bank account in equal measure. He'd been ambitious, sharp, with a sharp tongue that got him into trouble and a sharper brain that got him out again. Now his hair was thinner, his suit more expensive, and his eyes carried that fine network of lines that never fully left. He gestured toward the house. "This is your street?" "Lucky me," I said. He gave a humorless huff. "What have we got?" he asked. I told him. Clean, short, just the facts. The scream, the unlocked door, the body, Lisa on the bed, the missing boy, the car driving away. He listened without interrupting, which in my experience is the first test of a good detective. At the end, he nodded to himself once. "The woman," he said. "What state is she in?" "Shock and something else," I said. "Her story will change 3 times before dawn, maybe more. Right now she's stuck on 2 lines. It was an accident, and he's gone. He being the husband or the boy. That's what you need to find out. He looked up at the house. For a second, I saw the weight slide onto his shoulders. Monday morning would now be a press briefing, a scramble for resources, a command meeting about a dead father and a missing son in a quiet town that liked to believe bad things only happened on the news. "Did you go near the body?" he asked. "No, just into the doorway. Looked, spoke to her, called it in. That's it. Good. Soko will love you for that." He paused. "You up for giving a statement now? Or do you need—" "I'm fine," I said too quickly. He gave me a look, the kind of measuring stare we used to use on suspects. I forced myself not to look away. "It's not my first dead man, Neil. Not your first missing kid either," he said softly. The memory opened under my feet like a dropped trap door. A different house, a different boy, a shooting that went sideways. The night that ended with me sitting in a fluorescent-lit corridor, listening to the surgeon say words like spine and permanent damage about my partner, while down the hall a 10-year-old covered in somebody else's blood tried to stop shaking. I pushed the image down and let my voice go flat. "Let's focus on this one." Neil nodded, as if checking that I was still here. "Fair enough," he said. "Come, give your statement. Then go home. Sleep. We'll handle it." The standard reassurance. The polite way of saying, "You're not on the job anymore, Tom. This isn't your case." I followed him to the incident van anyway. Inside, under the harsh strip lights, the air smelled of coffee and anticipation. A young detective constable with tired eyes and a thin beard took my statement. He typed as I spoke, fingers clumsy but eager on the keys. "Had you heard any arguments from that house before tonight?" he asked. "Nothing serious," I said. "Normal family noise, door slams, raised voices. They weren't any louder than anyone else." "Did you know them well?" "No. We said hello. Talked about bins, parking, the school. That's about it." He nodded, not really listening to the last answer. He was already thinking ahead to forms and procedures. When we finished, Neil came back. "We've got Lisa in the ambulance," he said quietly. "She's refusing hospital. Keeps asking about her son. Keeps saying it was an accident but not saying what it was. We'll take her down the station. Get a doctor to clear her for interview." "She say anything about where Daniel might be?" I asked. "Just that he's gone," Neil said. "That she told him to go to his room. That she heard a car. No names. No descriptions. No mention of anyone who might have a reason to take him." "She on anything?" I asked. "Medication, drink, drugs? Alcohol level is low. No sign of anything else yet. But who knows what will show up on the bloods?" He rubbed the bridge of his nose.